Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. We're back here talking about limits a little bit more. Still not going too crazy, trying to go at a nice, reasonable pace here. Today we're talking about one-sided limits, and we're still going to approach this from a pure graphic standpoint until next week when we take it up a notch and we just go from equations, but just a little notation here. We know that in order for a limit to exist, if you've been doing the work the last couple days, it needs to approach the same value from the left and the right. Otherwise, we say the limit does not exist. Left does not equal right. But we have a notation to describe the left and the right specifically. So just notice this. This is saying the limit of f of x as x approaches c, and you see this little superscript here of negative. That means approaching c from the negative side, or which would be the left side. So, and here, limit of f of x as x approaches c from the positive side or from the right side. So that's really the important thing to pay attention to. Okay, so I'll just see a graph where we see a few of these played out, and hopefully there's enough here to answer any questions you have, but if not, of course, just email me. So part A here, the limit of this function as x approaches -2 from the left side. That's what that is implying. So now I don't really care about -2 from the right side, just as you approach -2, but from the left. And as we approach -2 from the left, what is the y value going towards? That would be the y coordinate of this hole, which is -1. There we go. As we approach -2 from the right, that's what part B is asking for, -2 from the right side. So the same x value of -2, but now on the function coming from the right side means we're talking about this. We're approaching that point, and that has a y value of +2. And as always, this is really old, but just kind of driving the whole thing home, if we don't specify the left or the right, then we're implying, hey, both. As we approach -2, period, from the left it's approaching -1, from the right it's approaching a y value of +2, we would say that limit does not exist. And we've been writing because the left doesn't equal the right, just as a way to sort of justify that answer, the limit does not exist, DNE. So this is really just a notation to describe things we had already considered. So right here, the limit of f of x as x approaches 3 from the left. So again, all this stuff on the left side doesn't really matter until we talk about getting in that neighborhood super close to 3 from the left side. And as the function approaches 3 from the left, the y value is getting super close to this whole value of -2. As we approach 3 from the right side, we're still right on the curve. Hey, it's a hole. We're attached to that hole on both sides. That's also approaching the y value of -2. And the limit as x approaches 3, period, meaning the left and the right, had the same value. So that's the value of the limit. From both the left and the right, we're approaching a y value of -2. Done. Now, this here is something we'd like to explore a little bit. Talking about approaching 1 from the left side. Now, at 1, you can see there's a vertical asymptote here. And we've been saying, I know we've only been doing this a couple days, but we've been saying in general, the limit does not exist, because one idea of a limit is that it should be approaching a number. And when you're talking about a vertical asymptote, the function is going either up or down, so its y values are going to infinity or -infinity. And infinity is not a number. So that's still a thing, but for all of you who are taking AP Calc next year, for example, if this were, say, a multiple choice example, so approaching 1 from the left. So that's right here. Here's x equals 1. It's this vertical asymptote. And on the left side, that graph is going up to +infinity. there would really be two ways to describe this. Some people would say, hey, infinity is not a number, the limit does not exist. And other people would just say, I'm going to write positive infinity because that is describing what the graph is doing. So I would really accept either. And if it were, an AP multiple choice, they might have does not exist as an option, or they might have infinity as an option. And it's just good to be flexible that they're both acceptable answers, but they wouldn't have both choices on a multiple choice format, just one or the other. So it's just good to be flexible. So I'm fine if you continue to write DNE, unbounded, or if you want to say infinity, because that is describing, you're getting your message across what the graph is doing on the left side. That's also a perfectly acceptable answer in a lot of situations. So, and your professor, in college, or your teacher next year for calculus, whoever it may be, might prefer one or the other. So, it's just good to know they're both kind of arguable. It's not everything is so clear cut as you think in math. And as you approach one on the right side, it's really the same idea where we're going up. So you could say, hey, that's a DNE unbounded. Or you could say that's going to infinity. That's describing the y value behavior. Either or. And the same thing goes for x approaching 1. That implies left and the right. You could say DNE, or you could just say infinity. Either or. And similarly, when we talk about this, we're talking about the value of the function as x approaches negative infinity. Now we're basically talking about the end behavior on the left. And as we go to the left, this graph is going up to positive infinity. It's not leveling off at any kind of HA. So again, we could say DNE unbounded. Or you might find teachers or textbooks that prefer you to say infinity. It is going to infinity as you go to the left, so either or. On the right side, as x goes to positive infinity, so now you're talking about the right side of the graph as x goes to infinity, this right side of the end behavior. What is the y value doing? It's going down to negative infinity. So again, you could say DNE unbounded, or you could simply say negative infinity. Either one would be acceptable in my book. One or the other might be preferable by your teachers in the future. And 0 from the right side, that's the function, the limit we're talking about here. The limit of this function as x approaches 0 from the right. Well, here's 0, and if you'll notice, 0 is just a normal point, so it doesn't really matter whether we're talking about the left, the right, or both. 0 from the right, it's approaching a y value of 4. So nothing too crazy there, just almost too easy, so don't overthink it. Okay, hope this covered a lot of the ideas and just further cemented your concept of limits. Have a good day. Let me know if you got any questions, kids. Keep it real.